Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we go back, Chair, to the Exhibit 29, the parliamentary transcript? Dr. Ngubane, may I just refer you to page 165 of that exhibit? The last sentence from page 164 says, Mr. Vanaga, further this is what the public protector says in view of your salary increases between yourself, Ms. Mkobo, and whatever the HR report was saying. The allegation that Mr. Mutsoeneng's salary progression was irregular is also substantiated in that Mr. Mutsoeneng received salary appraisals 3 times in 1 year, as hiking his salary as executive manager, stakeholder relations, from 1.5 million to 2.4 million. His salary progression on acting chief operations officer concomitantly rose irregularly from 122,961 to 211,172 rand, which was a 63% increase in 12 months, and in violation of Part 4 of the SABC personnel regulations and SABC policy. Acting in higher scale, and this constitutes improper conduct and maladministration. And then your response was that this was not correct.
Did you put a question to?
I'm so sorry, Dr. Ngubane. This is what the public protector stated. It was read out to you by Mr. Vanaga. What is your response to that?
Well, you know, I think she thought I engineered this. I did not. This was coming through HR, through the CEO. I wouldn't have had a mechanism to create this as chairman of the board.
Let's go back, and you can indicate what you know and what you don't know. When you did tell me already that the idea of bringing Mr. Mutsoeneng to the head office of SABC was that of the then Group Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mpoeke, I think. That is the person who came with this idea to you.
That's right.
Yes. And you said, okay, that's fine, as I understand the position, after he gave some motivation, which was that the station, radio station where he was in the Free State was making money, while a lot of other SABC radio stations were losing money. Is that right? Now, the power to appoint somebody to that position, did it lie with the Group Chief Executive Officer and not with the board for stakeholder relations manager? Or did it lie with the board?
That lies with him. It's only when it comes to group executive
Yes.
that the board gets consulted.
Yes, and that is for the 3 positions that we mentioned earlier. Was it for Group Chief Executive, CFO, COO? Was there a 4th one?
CEO, CFO, and COO.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was 3.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And those 3, the board has the power to appoint, subject to the minister concurring and so on.
That's correct.
Yeah, but for the stakeholder relations manager, that was within the power of the Group Chief Executive Officer.
That is correct.
Yes. Now, I asked earlier on whether you knew what the gap was between the position that Mr. Mutsoeneng held at the radio station, the Free State, and the position of stakeholder relations manager. And I think you did say he jumped quite a few ranks, but I don't know if you said 3 or you are not sure whether it was 3 or not, but you know he jumped quite a few ranks.
Well, if I remember well, it was 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And in terms of what the difference in salary between the 2 positions, namely the one in the Free State and the one of stakeholder relations manager, do you have any recollection of how much difference there was between the 2? More or less.
I don't have the actual mental picture,
yes.
but I know that it's very significant differences.
It was a significant difference. Yes. And did you know at that time when Mr. Musoneng was, when the group CEO at the time wanted to appoint him to this position, did you know what the requirements were for someone to occupy that position of stakeholder relations manager? Or is that something that you do not know?
Well, what I knew was that that person will be dealing with provincial stations.
Yes, yes.
And the motivation by the CEO was that he had been good in the Free State.
Yes, yes.
That's why he wanted it.
Yes, that's all you knew about the position.
Yeah. That's right.
And in terms of what his qualifications were, at what stage did you get to know them? Was that before he came to the head office or was that after?
When he came to head office, no one paid much attention to his qualifications.
Yes.
Because he was already within the SABC.
Yes, yes.
This arose later on. And then we sought information on the people who employed him. In fact, Mr. Alvain produced an affidavit as to why he had employed him.
This is now people who employed him in the Free State.
In the Free State.
Yes, okay.
So he was there. They found him fit. We were not going to revisit that, you know.
So at that time when you sought an understanding from those who had employed him, was he still stakeholder relations manager, as you recall, or had he become acting COO?
He had become acting COO.
Okay, and at the time he was appointed acting COO, I would have imagined that, okay, let me start by this. The appointment of an acting COO, I would imagine that is that falls within the power of the board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So he would have been appointed by the board as
That's
acting
correct.
COO.
That's correct.
I would have expected that the board, before appointing him as acting COO, it would have sought to satisfy itself that whatever qualifications or requirements there may have been for that position, that he complied with them, he satisfied them. Is that right?
Well, unfortunately, qualifications don't come in that type of decision. It's a question of track record and the level in the organization. That's how acting people are appointed. They must be at a certain level, in other words, group level, then they get appointed to act.
Okay, when he was appointed as acting COO, the position he still held was that of stakeholder relations manager.
He was already group executive.
Yeah, but holding what position?
In stakeholder.
Stakeholder relations manager.
That's right.
But what was still manager? And
Exactly.
nothing else.
He was no longer a manager.
Yes.
He was group executive.
Oh, okay. So he had moved from being stakeholder relations manager and had gone higher up. Is that right?
That's right.
And the ranking of the position of stakeholder relations manager and that of group stakeholder executive, was the group stakeholder executive immediately above the position of stakeholder relations manager? Or there was any jumping there?
Very significant.
There was a significant difference.
That's right.
Okay, and the one for stakeholder relations executive, had it always been there before?
It was a function that was within the CEO's office.
Okay, okay. So, but not a position as such. In other words, when you say it was a function, I get the impression that what you mean is somebody did that function, but that person might not necessarily have been given this title, but might have been one of his or her responsibilities together with other responsibilities.
It is a regional manager.
Regional manager?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a
That's
category.
What it was.
Yes.
The category.
Yes.
Okay, that's what it was before Mr. Mtsoneng occupied the position.
That's right.
Okay, so but you say there's a significant difference between that level and the level of stakeholder relations manager.
No, probably let's go back a bit.
Yes.
He comes in as manager, stakeholder
Yes.
in the group
CEO's
chief executive's office.
Yes.
He then gets promoted to group executive.
Yes.
That's a big jump
Yes.
from that
yes.
one of being manager.
Yes, yes.
After that, he gets appointed acting COO.
Yes.
There's
yes.
also another big jump.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, what I want to understand is before he gets appointed as group executive for stakeholder relations,
Yes.
you said that before that the function he performed in that position used to be done within the office of the group's chief executive office.
That's right.
And then I said, that gives me the impression that it might not have been a position on its own, but it might have been a task or a responsibility that was done by somebody who may have held a different position. So that's where we were. Is my understanding correct?
No.
Yeah.
It would be impossible
Yes.
for the manager for
Yes.
stakeholder relations to do other jobs.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So, but the stakeholder manager, that one I understand.
Yes.
Because I think you explained earlier on that before Mr. Mtsoneng was appointed to that position of manager, there was somebody else, but that person was performing that function in relation to the management, not the board. But that after Mr. Mtsoneng came in, I don't know if you said you don't know what happened to the other person,
Exactly.
but there was only one person, and that was Mtsoneng.
That's right.
Yes. Now, at that level, I understand what happened. Now, I'm now going to the level of group executive stakeholder.
Right.
Now, Mr. Mtsoneng was promoted from stakeholder relations manager to group executive for stakeholder relations.
That's right.
And you have said that that was a big jump. So the question I was asking was whether before he was appointed group executive for stakeholder, was there such a position? Your answer was that function was being performed within the office of the group chief executive officer. And my question is whether, as far as you know, and you might not know, as far as you know, whether there was somebody who held a position that had a certain title, or was it somebody who had another title that had nothing to do with stakeholder relations, but whose responsibilities included performing what Mtswaneng later performed as group executive stakeholder. I hope I'm clarifying myself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But my understanding was that whoever could have been doing that job had failed. Hence, the CEO wanting somebody else.
Oh, but are you able to say whether when Mr. Mtswaneng got appointed as group executive for stakeholder relations, this was a new position that was created? It didn't exist before, but the job he was going to do under this new position had been done by somebody else under a different position. Is that something you are able to say or not really?
I'm not too sure whether GE stakeholder relations never existed. I'm not sure about that. Yes.
The jump from stakeholder relations manager to group executive stakeholder relations, are you also able to indicate whether it was a jump of 2, 3, 4 rankings as you were able to indicate earlier on, or is that something, the detail that you are not able to remember?
I think
you just remember it was significant.
I think it's a jump from a level of, say, 1.5 million to over 2 million.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Ms. Norman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in other words, what is stated then in that paragraph that I had read, Dr. Ngubane, that would be correct at page 165.
Yes.
Those figures are then correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Then the public protector raises another issue in her report about your response to the application form.
Are you moving to another aspect?
To another aspect, yes, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, no, let me then finish maybe on this one.
All right, okay.
Now, the appointment of Mr. Mtswaneng as manager stakeholder relations, that was done by the group chief executive officer. Now, his appointment as group executive for stakeholder relations, was that done by the board or by the group chief executive?
I think the chief executive recommends that to the board. I'm not sure of the details,
yes,
but it wouldn't have happened unless he recommended it to the board.
Okay. And at that time, it was still Mr. Mkhwetla, as you recall, the group chief executive officer?
Mr. Mkhwetla?
Yes.
So as I remember.
I wonder whether the board, obviously the board would not be, I would imagine, rubber stamping what the group chief executive officer recommends.
Right.
It would apply its mind
That's right.
to the question, would this be a proper appointment?
That's right.
Now, on the understanding that the board would do that, one is bound to then ask the question, how did your board justify this significant jump in the promotion of Mr. Mtswaneng from stakeholder manager to a group executive for stakeholder relations at the salary difference that you have indicated? What was the justification?
Well, that would have been on previous performance. He succeeded as a stakeholder manager. There was a new challenge, and he was thought to be able to do it. Just like going from that to becoming acting COO. It wasn't a matter of qualification, it was a matter of being able to do the job.
That's quite important. I would think that if I'm running my own private company, and here I have in mind a small company, because the moment it's a big company and there are unions and so on, sometimes you can't run it the way you want. If I'm running a small company of mine, a private company, if I identify that, hey, this person is doing a very good job, and I need somebody to do this at a higher level, I don't need to advertise outside. I can see somebody inside. I can say, okay, this person I'll put at the higher position. But now, here one is dealing with a massive organization, and it's a state-owned entity. One, why would that position not be open to, why would the board not see it as necessary to let there be competition for filling this position of group executive stakeholder relations, even if it's thought it's likely that Mr. Mtsoneng is going to be to emerge victorious, as it were? Or why would it have thought it's not the right thing to say, let's advertise, we have this position, let people be interviewed, and then let's take it from there?
Well, I presume the background to that is that prior experience is accepted as adequate if a person demonstrates special knowledge or special capability. I think that is the reasoning that we went on.
But of course, the difficulty there is that you are looking, you get satisfied that the person has prior experience that you consider adequate because you are looking at a particular person.
Yes.
You are not going to think about that if you are about people that you are not looking at. But if you opened up the competition, how do you know that you would not actually find somebody who surprises you? And you might think Mtsoneng is so exceptional, and then somebody says, look at my track record, look where I was before I came here. It's just that here at SABC, I was appointed for this position. I've never been given a chance in this area. Actually, in the companies where I have been, I've been exposed to this. Look at the wonders that I've done there. I can do this much better than anybody. How do you know that you won't get somebody who says that if you open it up to competition?
Well, Chairperson, I fully understand what you're saying. However, when the house is burning, anyone can pass a bucket of water as long as he can carry the water. That was the situation. SABC was burning with a lot of degreed people. It was being reduced to ashes. So anyone who could carry a bucket of water to put out the fire would be allowed to do that.
That, in principle, that I understand.
Yeah.
In principle, that I understand. But I would think that to the extent that you may have been dealing with a burning SABC, appointing somebody, even if it was Mr. Mtsoneng, as in an acting capacity for that position of group executive for stakeholder relations, would take care of making sure that somebody will be doing this job while the fires are burning. But when you look at appointing permanently, you would have time to advertise, and he would be one of the candidates. And then whatever decision you make would be a decision that could not easily be challenged because you would be seen to have been fair. What do you say to that?
Well, I agree, Chairperson. This is why, for the permanent position, there was an advert. But for this, we didn't do that.
Yes. You mean for the position, permanent position of Group Executive Stakeholders Relations?
There was an advert for that.
Yes, yes. Okay. So it's the acting appointment that was not advertised, but the permanent appointment for that position was advertised.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Dr. Ngubane, the public protector raises another issue.
Yes.
At page 299
Sorry.
of
Okay.
Exhibit 27.
2929.
299, yes.
Yes.
I think this would relate to the question that the chairperson had asked you about at what point did you realize that Mr. Mutsueneng did not hold a matric certificate?
Yes.
You recall that question that the chairperson asked you? Thank you.
Yes.
So if you could go, Dr. Ngubane, to paragraph 6.1.3.36.
Program on the wrong page. Sorry.
Page 299.
299.
Yes.
my-
Are you
My 299 doesn't have those paragraph numbers.
are you on the public protector's report, Chair?
Yeah.
On top.
Hang on, maybe I'm not.
Yes.
No. I think I
Sorry,
met a wrong
it's
bundle.
Exhibit 27. On top, it will say, it will have report of the public protector. Do you have it, Doctor?
Dr. Ngubane, I suspect you and
You're
I were
also
on the
looking-
wrong page. Are you on the right page now?
Well, it's 299,
Yes.
and the
is
top
it-
of it says, and the issue of public protector
No.
meeting the deadline.
Oh, no, you are on the transcript. I beg your pardon. No, I would like you to go to the public protector's report.
The bundle that has got the public protector's report here. I was also on the
On the
same.
transcript. Yeah, it will not be in that file, Dr.
Yeah, it will
Ngubane.
be a different bundle.
Oh, all right. Sure. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. At paragraph 6.1.3.36, the public protector stated, on 5 April 2012, Dr. Ben Ngubane, the chairperson of the board, responded in writing to questions I raised in respect of Mr. Mutsueneng's alleged misrepresentation to the SABC. In his written response, Dr. Ngubane stated that the SABC perused Mr. Mutsueneng's file and could find no evidence that he misrepresented his qualifications. 6.1.3.37, Dr. Ngubane made this remark despite the findings of the 11 September 2003 Group Internal Audit Report, which indicated that the content of Mr. Mutsueneng's application for employment was false. If I may, just to conclude that point before you respond, Dr. Ngubane, if you could just turn over the page 300, paragraph 6.1.3.39. Advocate Mahlati indicated that when she tried to ascertain during the board meetings whether Mr. Mutsueneng had initially lied about his qualifications when he applied to the SABC, she was suppressed by the chairperson with the support of the majority of the board members, and that it was not necessary for the board to establish the true fact. Advocate Mahlati further drew my attention to the findings and verdicts of the appeals panel of the Ombudsman for the Press Council, who entirely found that the Sunday Independent was justified in saying that Mr. Mutsueneng had lied about having a matric certificate. Advocate Mahlati also indicated that she had information about how the chairperson of the board hounded and threatened the previous acting company secretary of the SABC, Ms. Jane Mbatia, and indicated to her that she was not allowed to hand over any information to outsiders. So if you may just go back to the first part of that finding, if I may put it that, by the public protector. What was your understanding when the public protector approached you and asked you about whether Mr. Mutsueneng had misrepresented his qualifications? What was your understanding of that question when you answered that there was no such evidence?
Well, the HR report told us that there was no claim by Mr. Mutsueneng that he had a matric. Ms. Pippa Green, who was a board member, also said she knew that Mr. Motswaneng did not have a matric, that the people who employed him had merely employed him knowing this fact. And this was the position that we had.
Have you ever seen the application for employment to which they refer that Mr. Motswaneng apparently submitted to the SABC, I guess, when he was applying for employment for the first time? Because they seem to suggest that in that application for employment, he misrepresented the position. As I understand it, he must have said, if they are correct, he must have said he has matric. If they are correct in saying he misrepresented. Have you ever seen that application for employment?
I saw the application. It said he was doing matric. It didn't say he had passed matric.
It said he was doing matric,
yes,
at a certain time.
Yes.
But it didn't list matric as an educational level he had passed.
No.
Yes. Okay. Have you got it there?
Not on this batch, on this file, Mr. Chairman, but may I could just refer you to where the public protector quotes what is stated in that application form. That would be at page 302. Sorry, Chair. Yes, 302 at paragraph 6.1.3.48. According to the panel, when Mr. Lesala wrote this on 27 June 2012, he was fully aware, as he had been told by Mr. Lepaka in writing just 5 days earlier, that the application for employment form did indeed exist and that it had been removed in 2003 because it gave the impression that Mr. Motswaneng passed standard 10. What makes Mr. Lesala's denial even more puzzling is that he even refers to having received Mr. Lepaka's inquiry. But the public protector actually records the symbols. If I may just take you to that page, Chair. Sorry. You just gave me the relevant page, sorry. They record the symbols as reflected on that form. Sorry, I had it just now. If you could just bear with me.
Well, paragraph 6.1.3.45, which is at page 301, reflects the following. Yes. The panel, that is, I think the appeal panel, noted that Mr. Motswaneng said that after he had again been refused appointment by the regional editor in Bloemfontein, who told him, and I quote, "I'm not going to appoint you because you do not have a matric," close quotes, he was asked by other people to fill in the application form, which he did. He was then appointed. Mr. Motswaneng did not dispute that he had written 10 in the space for highest standard passed, or that he had written the subjects and the symbols, or the date when he claimed to have passed standard 10. And yes. You might have been looking for that.
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. But the one I'm looking for is at page 296.
209.
296, Chair.
Yes.
296.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
296, Dr. Ngubane, I beg your pardon.
290.
296.
29.
Yeah, 296. The same bundle. Have you found it? 296. Have you found it, Dr. Ngubane?
Yeah, I found it.
You found it?
I think I found
Oh,
it.
thank you. Yes, it says it's paragraph 6.1.3.20. Attached to the complaint from Ms. Mambane was an application for employment completed by Mr. Mutweneng. 6.1.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Didn't you say we must go to page
Sorry.
290?
Just
296, Chair.
296?
Six. Yes, Chair.
Oh,
29. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. And then 6.1.3.21, on the completed application form, Mr. Mutweneng indicated that he passed Standard 10 in 1991 at the age of 23 years with the following subjects: English, E; South Sotho, E; Afrikaans, E; BIPS, E; History, F. And then the public protector says, on the application form that Mr. Mutweneng completed, he only noted 5 subjects completed and not the usual 6. During the interview, Mr. Mutweneng admitted falsifying his matric qualification and blamed a Mrs. Swanepoel, whom he said gave him the application form to fill in anything. In other words, to make up the symbols from the top of his head, which he did. With regard to the matric certificate, the form says outstanding, giving the impression that the certificate exists and would be submitted in due course. A copy of a transcript of the interview held with Mr. Mutweneng on 19 July 2013 with me is annexed to the report. Below is an extract from the transcript. Now, with this information now being placed before you by the public protector, Dr. Ngubane, would you still say that there was no evidence then of misrepresentation? Supposing that you were aware of this information at the time when you were asked to comment, and now it is placed before you now, what would your comment be?
Well, I'll go with Mr. Alvain's affidavit that they knew he did not have a matric certificate, but they appointed him all the same because of the service that he was rendering.
Yes.
That, to me, sums up the attitude of the board in advancing Mr. Mutweneng to the acting position.
Yes. If, for example, Mr. Mutweneng, as he has admitted to the public protector, had actually put in symbols, let's say everybody knew that he didn't have matric.
Yeah.
So if he didn't have matric, all that he needed to do on his application form was to say, my qualification is standard 8. But then if he goes beyond that and puts in symbols and subjects on an application form, would you regard that as misrepresentation? Or would you feel that because he doesn't have the matric, it really doesn't matter that he had put in those symbols?
No, the issue of symbols didn't arise. As I say, I'm trying to look for what Mr. Alvain said, because that's what sort of influenced us in our view. I can't find him here, but...
I'm sorry, this might help while you are looking.
Yes.
This might help. What you are looking for, is it where you say somebody put up an affidavit?
Yes.
Yes.
And the affidavit was to the effect that they knew that he didn't have matric, and they appointed him for whatever reason.
He had no matric.
He had no matric, yes. They appointed him despite knowing that.
That's right.
That's what you were looking for. That's what you are looking for now.
That's right.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you, Chair. No, I understand that, Dr. Ngubane, but my question is, if he did not have a matric, he would have said, I do not have matric, when he's applying for the position. But if, knowing that he doesn't have matric, but he puts up symbols and subjects, would you regard that as misrepresentation?
Well, yes, of course. However, he told us that he didn't have matric.
Yes.
So we knew that. I mean, we didn't search for all sorts of things. We knew he didn't have matric, but he could do the job.
So in other words, as far as you are concerned, then or now, it really didn't matter that he had put in those symbols on the application form?
No, that didn't arise, I'm sorry.
Yes.
That issue didn't arise. We went with the knowledge that he doesn't have a matric,
Yes.
but senior people in SABC saw fit to appoint him.
When you say the issue did not arise, do you mean it didn't arise before the public protector, or that issue did not arise at all at the SABC prior to his appointment?
Well, at the SABC, it did not arise. We knew that he didn't have a matric, but we knew that we wanted certain services from him.
I think maybe one should look
Yes.
at it from this angle, because I think the public or part of the public might also be looking at it in this way, namely, was possession of matric not required, was it not a requirement for the position of stakeholder relations manager? That might be one position, but the board did not make that decision. But once the board had to make a decision, one would have expected that it would start by saying, what are the requirements for this position? Does he meet those requirements? So I think that one must ask the question, for the position of group executive for stakeholder relations, was possession of matric not a requirement? And was possession of matric not a requirement for appointment as acting CEO or COO? So I think that's where you might wish to focus.
Yes, Chairperson. We knew he didn't have matric, but we knew that he could deliver what we wanted. And that's what guided us.
Would your answer therefore be that you knew that he did not have matric, but you knew that possession of matric certificate was a requirement for both of these positions, but for certain reasons you decided that it was fine? Or is the position that the board didn't know whether matric was a requirement for these positions?
Chairperson, we know that, or we knew that, a matric certificate and higher qualifications are always required. But like the people in the Free State, they were dealing with a crisis where the people who were there were supposed to be able to deliver a successful broadcasting service were failing. And hence they took this boy who did not have a matric, and he made a difference. So it was the same approach here. We know normally you would want to have those qualifications. But when people with those qualifications fail, you then try anything.
Would you then be in a position to say whether appointing somebody to a position where he or she did not meet one of the requirements was a breach of whether it was policy or whatever governance rules and regulations, that you knew that it was a breach, but you considered that having regard to everything else, the board considered itself justified? Or what would you say?
I would say exactly you said, Chairperson.
Yes.
But the board knew that the people we had not delivered. So we were trying to improve the situation.
Okay, all right.
And there are people at SABC who don't have matric. This wasn't the precedent
Yes.
or the first time.
Yes.
People in quite senior position. I'm sure if HR could provide us with a
Yes.
list of all the qualifications
Yes.
of people in sales, of people
Yes.
in different departments, we'd find that there are some who don't have matric.
Yes.
Some of them come from the old dispensation,
Yes, yes.
before 94, who did not have matric, but they were given these jobs and they were doing it very well.
Well, well, I don't know the facts. You might know much more because you were chairperson of the board there. But I can understand a situation where there's a new dispensation that comes in, and it comes in when there was another dispensation before. That other dispensation may have done things in a certain way,
Yes,
and the new dispensation wants to do things differently.
that's right.
But it is considered that maybe it would be unfair to then say people who had been appointed to certain position under the previous dispensation should now be dismissed because the new dispensation has different requirements for those positions. I can understand a situation where a decision is taken, look, when they came in, they met the requirements that were required then. We want different requirements because maybe we have a different level to which we want to take this institution. But then what might happen is, as I see it, you say, well, if those people stay where they are, you leave them alone. But if they want to go up,
Yes.
then you will want them to meet the requirements that are required at the time when they want to go up.
Yes.
That I can understand. Is it that kind of situation that you're talking about in terms of the HR, or could it be a situation similar to Mutsoneng? Because as I understand, I may be wrong, as I understand the position, Mr. Mutsoneng seems to have come into the SABC at the Free State after 94, which I would consider to be a new dispensation. The other situations where there were people who didn't have matric, do you know whether they would have been from the previous dispensation or not really? Or is it something you wouldn't know? You just know that there were other people who didn't have matric.
Well, I wouldn't have the documentation, but HR would have.
Would have, yes.
But then, Chairperson, if you'll allow me.
Yes.
The same dispensation, the new dispensation, recognized prior learning. And this had a major effect on the thinking, on the board.
No, I think that's important. I mean, there are many people who might not have matric, who might not even have lower educational standards or grades than matric, who nevertheless are very good at what they are doing and who do a very good job. And one must never create the impression that if you don't have matric, you are nothing. If you don't have a degree, you are nothing. There are many people who make very important contributions in society without those formal qualifications. But nevertheless, I think what is important, and you might wish to comment here, is that it is important that the policies of an organization that are put in place be followed.
Right.
And if the policies or regulations say for this position, matric is required,
Right.
that you stick to that. Of course, if you think that at a particular stage, this policy doesn't serve the institution properly, or these regulations don't serve the institution properly, it may be that there is a reason there's a case to put forward to say, let's change it.
Right.
Because it prevents us, for example, from appointing somebody who might not have a piece of paper written matric,
Right.
but has a lot of experience that would be good for the organization. But then you say, to do it the proper way, you say, well, if there are generally more situations like that, probably not to do it for an individual,
Right.
then you change it. And then when you invite applications, if that is the kind of situation you are dealing with, everybody knows what the rules are.
Right.
They know that if you don't have metric, but you have this prior experience and it's relevant, you could be allowed. You can apply. Right. And then when you appoint somebody who doesn't have metric in that situation, you can justify it because you are not in breach of your policy or regulations. I think that's where the difference might be. I don't know if you want to say anything.
Well, I accept that,
Yes.
Chairperson.
Yes.
But when appointing as acting COO, we had to inform the minister and get the concurrence. So that happened. It was approved by the minister. So we thought we were doing something all right.
Yes. So there was concurrence from the minister, and the board thought then it should be
Exactly.
fine.
Exactly. Otherwise, it would never have been an acting COO.
Yes, yes. Of course, the responsibility might be that before the board sends anything to the minister, before it makes its decision, it must satisfy itself
Yes.
that if we make this decision will be in line with the regulations and the policies.
Right.
And if it won't be, they mustn't even send it to the minister. They must satisfy themselves. Is it in accordance with the policies? Is it in accordance with the regulations and the law? That
Right.
kind of thing. Because maybe when it comes to the minister might also say, oh, the board has no problem. I'll defer to the board. I think it must be fine. So then everybody is not checking. Everybody thinks the other one has checked. It must be fine. You understand where I'm coming from?
I do very well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to deal with that point that Dr. Ngubane has made in response to your question, Chair, may I ask the witness to turn to SABC Exhibit CC32? That is the...
So you...
No, it's another bundle, yes. You can close that one, Dr. Ngubane.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
This is your... I beg your pardon, Chair. Oh, I'm told that this is your bundle. I'm sorry. Could you just find whether there is a CC32 there? Maybe.
Well, there is one that has got his statement. There is one that has got the public protector's report.
No,
and there is
Chair,
one that has got the transcript of the parliamentary committee. But the best way is to tell us what is written on this file.
It's written SABC reference bundle, Chair. The reference bundle.
There are too many of these bundles now.
Yes. 32. I think it's underneath that one. Oh, yes.
Okay, SABC reference bundle.
Thank you, Chair.
Got it.
Could you please turn to page 218, the red? There's two numbers there, Chair. Please ignore the one in ink and have a look at the one in red, 218. Thank you. This is a letter confirming that Mr. Hlaudi holds the title of Acting Chief Operations Officer, and it is from Mr. Thabiso Lesala, dated 28 November 2011. But before that, there is a page 219 precedes 218, but it follows in terms of the bundle. The one dated 18 November 2011, is that your signature, Dr. Ngubane?
This is the 219.
Yes, in 219.
Yeah.
It's a sub-delegation of authority.
So the appointment of the acting,
In 219.
the letter is from,
On page 219.
In red.
the
The one
letter is from the
number?
minister.
No. In red, 219 in red is
Not
the black one.
Not the handwritten one.
Yes.
The one typed
All
219.
right. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
okay,
you. So that is a sub-delegation of authority. You are delegating that authority, am I right, to Mr. Hlaudi Mutsuneng?
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Thank you. And then if you turn over to page 220, you will find a letter written 15 November 2011 to Minister Dina Deliwe-Pule, where you were advising her of the resolution of the board. And the letter reads, appointment of the Acting Chief Operations Officer. Pursuant to the authority given by Article 18 of the SABC Articles of Association, the resolution taken by the Special Board on 14 November 2011 in respect of the Acting Chief Operating Officer be implemented. 1. The appointment of Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng as Acting Chief Operating Officer with effect from 18 November 2011 until such time that the Chief Operating Officer is appointed. 2. The recruitment process for all vacancies at executive level, particularly Group Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and Chief Operations Officer, be urgently commenced with the assistance of the Minister of Communications. I hope you find the above in order and will be awaiting your further instructions on this matter. Signed by you, Dr. Ngubane, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Then the next page, at page 221, is this the letter that you were referring to when you were answering the chairperson? It's written to you from the Ministry of Communications, Dr. Ben Ngubane, and it says, Dear Dr. Ngubane, appointment of the Acting Chief Operations Officer. The above mentioned matter refers, I have noted the resolution taken by the board of the SABC to appoint Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng as the Acting Chief Operations Officer of the SABC. I would like to advise that in terms of Article 19.2 of the Articles of Association of the SABC, I hereby approve the appointment of Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng as the Chief Operating Officer of the corporation. As a result of my approval, I'd like to advise that you should proceed to implement the resolution of the special board meeting taken on 14 November 2011. I trust that you will find the above in order, dated 28 November 2011.
Yes.
Is this the approval that you are referring to?
There's a mistake here.
Yes.
She says, as the Chief Operations Officer of the corporation. We were talking about an acting COO.
Oh, yes, because the heading does say appointment of acting Chief Operations
Yes,
Officer.
yes.
But you're
But
quite
she talks-
correct. Then in the body of the letter,
That's
she
right.
makes reference to Chief Operations Officer.
Yes.
Yes, but I think she made a mistake only in regard to that last line of that paragraph. Earlier on in the paragraph, she does refer to Acting Chief
Acting Chief.
Operations Officer.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Chair. Thank you. So that was the letter that you referred to. Then, before we move from that bundle, I would like us to just deal with some of the minutes, the board minutes.
Sorry, are the minutes here?
They are in there, yes, thank you. I would just like to take you to some of the minutes.
Maybe while you are looking
Yes.
for the minutes, I just ask another question. Acting appointments at group executive level, were they, throughout your time, always made on the basis of simply identifying the individual and appointing that individual to act? Or was there a different process that was followed at some stage or in regard to other positions other than those of COO or group executive stakeholder relations?
Well, apart from the three positions, the Chief Executive Officer can appoint acting group executives.
Yes. But what I'm asking is whether the process,
Yes.
whether there was a particular process that was followed which was different from simply the appointing authority identifying who the person is that will be appointed to act. In other words, whether sometimes what would be done is to say, let's look at different names or invite some people who are prepared to be considered, and then one would be appointed, or whether for acting appointments, it was always the position that there was no particular process. The board just appointed somebody to act in a particular position that it considered was suitable?
Chairperson, the people who is appointed acting should be in the same position as the person who occupied. In other words,
The vacant position.
level grade 5 or grade 7.
Yes.
They must be in the same position.
Yes, yes.
Then the CEO will appoint and then
Yes.
inform us that so-and-so is now acting.
So if, insofar as acting is concerned, it was the group CEO who made the appointment.
That's right.
And then he would just inform the board or something.
That's right. Apart from the 3 positions.
Or apart from the 3 positions.
That's right.
For acting appointments in regard to the 3 positions, it would be the board that would make the
And
decision.
reports to the minister.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in that case too, there was no particular process. Would the board simply look at whoever they decide they thought would be right, then they would appoint the person without circulating any notice or invitation internally to say, we will be appointing an acting person. Those who think they want to be considered should send their names or CVs. There would be nothing like that for acting appointments.
Well, Chairperson, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want us to deal with the role that Mr. Hlaudi was playing in one of the board meetings. Just to link up with your evidence, Dr. Ngubane, earlier, and I would like to direct your attention, please, to page 39 of that same exhibit, CC 32, that same bundle that is in front of you.
Sorry, page?
Page 39.
39.
Yes.
Are we on the same
Same
bundle?
bundle, Chair. Yes, thank
Page
you.
39.
39, yes, that's correct, Chair. Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair. Those are the minutes of a special meeting, board meeting, that was held on the 7th of February 2012, and that you were chairing, Dr. Ngubane, is that correct? According to that document?
That's correct.
Yes, and Mr. Mutweneng was one of the persons that were in attendance. But I would just like to raise something which is mentioned at page 11, I beg your pardon, at page 49, I was looking at the document itself, page
Sorry?
49,
Page?
page 49, same document, yeah, but in page 49.
Okay. Right.
Yes. Then, this is acting COO, and I believe that's Mr. Hlaudi, according to the minutes. The 3rd paragraph, agreed with Advocate Mahlati, but stated that keeping the employee, maybe I should
You
read
must
the
start
earlier
earlier,
paragraph.
otherwise we don't know
It
what
does,
he was
then the
agreeing
context,
with.
it becomes out of context, correct. Chair, could you start from the 2nd paragraph? The first one, actually, because I think it's the same person. She stated that there was need for an innovative solution taking into consideration her rights. Advocate Mahlati informed the board that the maximum payable under the CCMA is 12 months. She was of the view that it was easier to pursue that route, and the proposal by Mr. Mutsepe, other than make a payment of 4 million plus, which was excessive. Acting COO agreed with Advocate Mahlati, but stated that keeping the employee would need to be budgeted for, and that in turn around, the interest of a company was paramount and employees needed to be productive. He stated that there was need for radical and unpopular decisions to take the corporation forward. He requested the board to assist in placing Ms. Mampane in government. If one reads without reading the full minute, but the suggestion was that Ms. Mampane could be placed on early retirement or transferred or redeployed to another government institution. But what I wanted to raise with you, Dr. Ngubane, I know that you had said that Mr. Hlaudi could participate but didn't have voting rights. But would you say that he was doing more than just being of help? He's now making suggestions about people being placed in government.
No, Chairperson, let me clarify. That non-participation in terms of voting was when he was
Stakeholder
board
manager.
communications.
Yes.
Yes.
Now he is acting COO.
Yes.
He is now part of the 3 group executive members of the board.
Who were entitled to. He
was
entitled.
he was, for all intents and purposes, an acting member of the board.
Yes,
right. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And therefore, he could participate fully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then my question then falls away because I was under the impression that we were moving on the same path. But then these minutes, as you will see, Dr. Ngubane, that have been placed here, and they are the minutes of the board, but they deal with various issues, and I would not take you through them, save that I would like you to comment on one aspect which you deal with in your statement, the issue of encryption.
All right.
And just advise the chair what was the attitude of the board insofar as that encryption issue was concerned.
Chairperson, the issue of encryption had been a ball that's been kicked around a lot at SABC. It's gone to the Supreme Court, I think even Constitutional Court. When I wrote this remark in my statement, it applied to a discussion after I think the High Court or Constitutional Court had ruled that this matter should be settled by broadcasters and not involve politicians. So that opened a whole lot of discussion around the issue of encryption. There was a strong view that encryption makes access to broadcasting material for the people conditional. That the SABC Act stipulates that there must be universal access to any broadcast, but done by a public broadcaster. Now, the encryption will mean that some people could switch off members of the public and not have, therefore contravene the full access requirement. That was the type of discussion that was happening. It was not decisive, but the majority view tended to be, to a large extent, that let's not create any obstacle for people who don't have subscription DSTV or whatever other subscription channel can be switched off and not have access.
Yes. And if you will, to go back to your statement now, if you could just close the file in front of you and we go back to Exhibit 20 to 24. We left off in the morning, we're at page 13.
Sorry, that is the other file.
Yes, where you
Okay.
have your statement, Dr. Ngwan.
Sorry,
Yes.
yeah. What is the number?
The page 13, page 13.
Okay.
Sorry, you'll have to go back to divider number 22, if that is the.
Have you reached your statement? Are you at your statement?
Yes, Chairperson.
Oh, okay. Then
it's
page
divider
13.
22.
Page
13.
Yes.
13, yeah.
Thank you. You are dealing there with MultiChoice agreement on 24-hour channel. Could you just summarize your evidence in those paragraphs and what is it that you wanted to convey to the chairperson there?
Chairperson, ENCA was becoming a very powerful competitor for the SABC. So there was a lot of discussion as to how the SABC can host or provide a 24-hour news channel. You know,
In other words, to compete with them.
to compete with them.
Yeah.
The news people, through their head of news, examined this issue, even suggested that we will take SABC 3 and make it into a 24-hour news channel. but they needed partners. So Mr. Phil Molefe and Mr. Claude Motsoneng even went to India to try and find a partner who could help them turn SABC 3 into a 24-hour news channel. They even went to London. I think they spoke to ITV on this issue. When they came back and reference was made to ICASA, ICASA said there's no way SABC 3 could be turned into a 24-hour news channel because the license conditions are that it's a commercial channel. It's even accounted for separately from the public broadcaster, which is SABC 1 and 2. So that brought an end to that discussion. But then the Minister of Communications, because the Portfolio Committee was very keen that we move on with the 24-hour news channel, called me and Ms. Mokobo to a meeting and said...
And that was still General Nyanda, the minister?
No, Minister Pule.
Pule, okay.
Yes. We went to a meeting. We were told that it's important that we talk to MultiChoice because that's the only remaining alternative. So we started discussions with MultiChoice. We progressed the discussions very significantly until we wrote, I'm not sure whether it was a contract or an MOU, but we did sign a document that MultiChoice will host the SABC on DSTV as 24-hour news. That seemed to fulfill the requirement that we have a 24-hour news channel. However, the problem came when it came to how MultiChoice will pay for the SABC on their DSTV bouquet. They said they will pay 50 million rand the first year, 40 million rand the second year, 30 the third year, 2 million towards the fourth year, 1 million, etc. It was, and then there will be nothing payable to SABC after that. That broke the discussion.
That was still MultiChoice?
That was still MultiChoice.
Was that after the signing of some document that you talked about, or before?
Yes, I'm not sure it was a contract or an MOU.
Oh, yeah.
But we had signed the document.
You had already signed?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But then the issue of money, of payment, came in. There was another grouse on the side of the SABC that they must carry regulations, which are included in the Broadcasting Act, stipulate that any subscription provider who has 30 bouquets or so must carry SABC 1 and SABC 2. But they do this free of charge without paying any money to the SABC. This was a sore point for SABC in that they benefit from audience ratings, they get advertisement out of the content produced by SABC, they just cream off the work of SABC. Now, to add now to this fact that MultiChoice only will pay 50 million initially and end up paying nothing for the 24-hour news channel, broke the conversation. That's how I left it.
So when you left, there was an MOU or contract that had been signed, but there were discussions that had not been finalized.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Dr. Ngubane, just to, you would have noticed that the bundle, the reference bundle, contained several media clippings.
Yes.
Yes, that relate to you, and I'm sure you've read the criticism about Mr. Motsoneng's acting position. Just to conclude that point, you are aware of the media clippings at the time?
Well, I'm aware of many things that the media says.
Yes. So that I don't, you don't, or unless you wish me to take you through to some of them, but the criticism generally is about the appointment of Mr. Motsoneng largely.
Well, as I've stated,
Yes.
everything was done in good faith on the assumption that it helps the SABC.
Thank you. And then before we get to your general comments.
Maybe
sorry.
because you said you were rounding off a certain point, maybe
Yes, sure.
let me say this, and then Dr. Ngubane, you can just indicate if my understanding is correct. My understanding now is that you are saying the appointment of Mr. Motswaneng to the position of acting COO, well, maybe starting with acting group executive for stakeholder relations.
Right.
And his appointment as acting COO. May have been or was in breach of the requirements because he did not have metric that we accept. But we acted in good faith. We thought that the circumstances which prevailed justified that we appoint him nevertheless. Is my understanding correct of what?
No, it's correct, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to read to you, Mr. Hlaudi Motswaneng has submitted a statement to the Commission.
Oh.
But I would like to read a paragraph that relates to you and ask for your comment, because by the time it comes to testify, you will probably not be here. But he says at paragraph 57, if I may just read, all SABC board chairpersons, Dr. Ngubane, Prof. Maguve, and Mrs. Ellen Chabalala were given a mandate to get rid of me as I was a stumbling block for the board members who wanted to eat in quotes. Do you have any comment to that?
No. Well, this is now taking me by surprise.
Yes.
There was no mandate given to me to get rid of Motswaneng. Mr. Motswaneng raised some issues as acting COO about some board members who were wanting to get into a Siemens contract. He raised it sharply with the board, and that process was stopped. That's the only, but that did not lead to any of us being given a mandate to fire him.
And who would have given, if there was a mandate, who would have given a mandate to you, do you know?
Well, it must be someone higher than us, because I wouldn't have
You
taken-
can't get
Yes.
your mandate from somebody below.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. And then in paragraph, if you go back to your statement now, in paragraph 62 of your statement, you make general comments. Could you just make those comments, tell the chairperson what you're saying in that paragraph?
Sorry, that's 56.
That is 62, at
60
page 14 of your statement.
62.
Yes.
Well, because of the turnaround project, the board tended to be probably too involved. In terms of the conditions of the government guarantee, the board had to ensure that all predetermined objectives, such as austerity measures, were timeously attended. This meant close monitoring and supervision of management in implementing the turnaround measures. What I did not say here was that board members felt compelled to be very closely involved with the turnaround because there was this lack of trust between the board and senior management.
Thank you. And then lastly, Dr. Ngubane, at the time when you were the chairperson of the SABC board, did you have any business interest or companies that did business with the SABC? And if so, which companies and at what level?
No, we did not have a company in the broadcasting sector at all.
And none of your family members did any business with SABC?
No, not a single one of them. I mean, unless they act in generations or something like that,
Yes.
which I may not know about, but there was no one doing business with the SABC.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. That is the evidence.
Thank you. I think I would like us to go back to Mr. Mtswane. You did say that the SABC had certain people do certain jobs and they had failed, and that is people who may have had matric and above. And Mr. Mtswane seemed to be able to be effective without those qualifications. Now, in this regard, I take it that you were talking about the position, the job he had to do as stakeholder relations manager and as group executive for stakeholder relations. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. Now, you did say that the jump from stakeholder relations manager to group executive stakeholder relations was quite a significant jump. For the acting appointment, no other people were asked to make themselves available because that's how acting appointments were made.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But you did say for the permanent appointment to that position, the position was advertised. Is that right? For the position of group executive for stakeholder relations, that position was advertised for permanent appointment.
That's right.
Yes. And do you remember what requirements were put for the advert for that position? Do you remember in terms of requirements for educational qualifications, or is that something you can't remember?
Well, that's the advert that I was given to read.
I think that one was for COO, or am I mistaken? I thought it was for acting for COO.
It was for COO position.
Yes.
For a permanent position.
Yes, but I'm now talking about not permanent for COO. I'm talking for permanent group executive for stakeholder relations. Because I understood you earlier on, and you can just tell me if I misunderstood. I understood you to say the board appointed Mr. Mtswane as acting group executive for stakeholder relations. But that later on, there was an advert for a permanent position for that a permanent appointment for that position. Did I misunderstand?
No. When he was stakeholder manager
Yes.
in the office of the CEO,
Yes.
he was then asked to be also communication
Yes.
person for the board.
Yes.
When he became acting COO,
Yes.
he didn't do those jobs anymore.
Yes.
He was an executive member of the board.
Yes. Yes.
So there was no connection between him being stakeholder manager in the CEO's office and being acting COO.
Yes.
Those two were still before the COO acting stage.
Okay. I thought that he went through 4 stages or 3 stages while you were there. I think the 4th stage, namely permanent appointment as COO, happened when you were no longer there.
That's right.
I thought that you said while you were there were 3 positions to which he was appointed.
That's right.
One was where he was appointed by the Group Chief Executive Officer as manager for stakeholder relations.
That's right.
And the second was where he was appointed as initially Group Executive for Stakeholder Relations.
That's right.
And that later he was appointed as acting COO.
That's right.
So I thought those were the three positions, but
That's
now I'm talking about the middle one. And when I say middle, it doesn't necessarily mean it's below another one. I'm talking about the Group Executive for Stakeholder Relations.
Yes.
I thought that your evidence was that initially he was appointed in an acting capacity to that position.
That's
But
right.
that later on, that position was advertised for permanent appointment.
That's right. Well-
Am I right in that regard, in understanding that?
We were not involved in that.
You were not involved in
No.
that? Or for group executive?
That's right.
Okay, but there was an advertisement for that post for permanent appointment, as far as you know.
Well, they should have been, because
Yeah.
it was now a vacated position.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were not involved in
We
that?
were not involved.
The board was not involved?
Exactly.
Okay. I thought that all group executive appointments were made by the board.
No, the three,
Yeah,
CEO,
CFO.
CFO, COO.
Oh,
But the others
yes.
are made by the CEO but reports to us.
Oh, okay, okay. So to the extent that he may have been appointed as permanently as group executive for stakeholder relations,
Yes.
that appointment would not have been made by the board.
No.
It would have been made by the group CEO.
That's right.
Oh, okay, all right. It's only at the level of acting COO that the board got involved with regard to him
Absolutely.
Yes.
And inform the minister.
and informed the minister just for acting.
Yes.
But when it came to the permanent appointment, his permanent appointment to that position, you had left.
That's right.
Yes, okay. Okay, so one, in terms of the board appointing him as an acting COO, insofar as you did not consider other people, your position was that for acting appointments as a practice to any of those positions, advertisements were not made for acting appointments,
That's correct.
even internally.
That's correct.
So the board would just have a look at people and identify a person that it thought was suitable, and as long as that person was already employed at the same level,
That's right.
then it could appoint.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, so the one for group executive, is it at the same level as COO?
No, that's higher.
COO is higher.
That's right.
Okay. So where you seek an acting appointment for COO, did this requirement that the person must be on the same level apply, or did it not apply? You indicated earlier on that when you are going to appoint somebody as in an acting capacity,
Yes.
although you don't advertise,
Yes.
but the person you appoint must be on the same level,
Must be at the group level.
must be at the group level.
Yes.
But group level is not everybody on the same level. There are different levels
That's
at group
right.
level.
That's right.
So he was at group level, even though not at COO level.
That's right.
And you were then entitled to, he was one of the people you were entitled to look at.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, okay. And then, of course, you accept that for that position required qualifications that he did not have, but you say that you took the view as the board that having regard to what had happened before and having regard to his performance in the previous positions, you thought that you should appoint him.
That's correct.
Yes. And the difference, I think you did say, I'm just refreshing my memory, the difference between the level at group executive for stakeholder relations and COO was also significant.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. And again, coming back to his skills, you said earlier on what he had was people skills, which I understand to be, he was good with dealing with people. Is that right? Is there anything else?
In my time, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, during your time.
Yes.
But was there anything else that you thought he was, he stood out, was outstanding about him in terms of the performance of the job, other than being good with people?
He knew the SABC backwards. He knew exactly who was doing what system was being overridden, how false commissions were being generated. He knew a lot. So he was very valuable to us to stop money flowing from the SABC illegal.
Okay. And of course, as far as the permanent appointment is concerned, you were not there, so therefore you can't say anything, you can't answer for when he was appointed permanently.
Absolutely.
You don't know who else was available and so on.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything arising?
That is all, Chair. Except that,
Yes.
Chair, maybe just to the questions that you asked the witness now, they about his progression and the career history. It appears
Yes.
at page 217
Okay.
of Exhibit CC 32.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Ngubane. It may be that we might ask you to come back.
All right.
So I've no doubt you will come back if we ask you to come back. But thank you very much for coming to give evidence and to share your knowledge of what happened at SABC with the Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can my legal representative have a record of this?
Yes, he can have it. He can have it. There should be no problem at all. He will talk to the legal team. There should be no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are excused.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. May I have just a 5-minute adjournment just for change? We're having another witness, and also he has slides
Yes.
and some things to demonstrate.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
5 minutes or 10?
No, 10 will also be good, Chair. The only challenge I have, Chair, today is that I'm not going to ask Chair to proceed beyond 4 o'clock.
Yes.
The reason being that there is a witness that we have to meet with now. We said he must come at 4 o'clock.
Yes.
That's the challenge I have, Chair.
Yes.
But we are in your hands, Chair. If you feel that maybe we should adjourn for the day because it's already 20 to 4 and resume tomorrow morning.
You say the next witness should take how long in terms of the evidence?
He's long, Chair. He deals with the DTT and he's going to demonstrate how it works, and he's going to be a long witness, and I wouldn't want to rush him, Chair.
Yes. Well, maybe we should then, but you say he's not available after 4, or you are...
The team is not available,
The team
Chair.
is not
We have a
available.
witness that
Oh,
we
you have a
arranged
witness
to meet.
to-
Yes.
Okay, maybe we should adjourn now,
Yes.
then, and not start 4 and then...
And then leave it.
And then do it for 10 minutes and then break.
Yes, Chair.
And if we start tomorrow, is how long do you think he might take? The whole day, or
No, Chair. He won't take the whole day. Maybe 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours?
Yes.
I'm trying to see whether there is a need to start early tomorrow or not. We don't need to start early if we will be fine.
I think we will be fine, Chair.
We should be
yes,
fine.
because there was only one witness for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then if we start with him, because
Yeah.
he's been here today,
Yeah.
then we should finish both
Okay.
witnesses. Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, we will adjourn for the day, and then we'll start at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn.